Tesamid Beis or Tesamid Aleph? I'm sorry, Tesamid Aleph. Okay, Tesamid Aleph. We are picking up. Let me see, 9A, maybe 3. It looks like, or even a little bit. Let's start with 9A3. We're going to be a few lines up before that, but we'll catch up to it in a minute. So the Gemara says as follows. Okay. Lo badak mai. So the Gemara says, literally right in the middle of the Amud, lo badak, that if you didn't check the simanim, right? Remember we said you had to check the simanim. Lo badak, but if you didn't check the simanim, mai. So what's the halacha under these circumstances? So we have a machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer ben Antigonos, Mishum Rabbi Elazar beRabbi Yonai, Amar, Treifa. So Rabbi Eliezer says it's a treifa. Okay? And what's the din of a treifa? Asura be'achilo. You're not allowed to eat a treifa. Of course, what is a treifa? A treifa is an animal that is a behema tahora. Right? It is an animal that was shechted properly. But it is an animal that has one of the treifos, which we haven't even started to learn about yet, but which we will. You guys did not learn treifos, did you?
Not really. I mean, we did a little bit about lungs and puncturing lungs and things like that.
I guess on the bird you also have bruises.
Right, yeah, so we'll go. The issues those are the issues.
Well, you're probably a little bit familiar with it, right? But when you get we'll get
or abnormalities.
Right. So in Yirtz Hashem, we'll really get to talk about treifos. So should be interesting. We'll get to do it.
How many years from now?
We'll talk about treifos. It could be a couple. All right. But at least I know you keep coming back. Okay. So he says. So Rabbi Eliezer says it's treifa ve'asura be'achila, right? And it is usur to eat. B'masnisa Tana, and in a brisa it was learned, nevela, that it's considered a nevela, umitama'a b'masa. And not only is a nevela asura to eat, but it's also mitame b'masa. What does mitame b'masa mean? If you touch it or if you carry it, if it's a behemoth, if you touch it or carry it, it conveys tuma. And if it's an oaf, if you swallow it, it conveys tuma. So here you have this. So let's just back up for we have machlokas Rabbi Eliezer on the one hand and the brisa on the other. So let's for a moment try to think a little bit about this. Okay, here's an animal. We starting out. Everybody knows it's a behema tahora. We'll work with the behema. Okay, everybody knows it's a behema tahora. Everybody knows that it did not die of its own accord. How did this animal die?
You shechted it.
This animal died because somebody shechted it. Right? So it did not die of its own accord, and it seems to have had a proper shechita. But we didn't check the simanim, and now we can check the simanim. So the question is, what's the status of the animal?
Okay.
So it seems nobody says that you can eat it. Right? If you didn't check the simanim, everybody agrees that you can't eat the animal. What are we talking about, though? What's the status of the animal? Everybody agrees you can't eat the animal. Rabbi Eliezer says you can't eat it, and the Brisa says you can't eat it. But they differ as to how much more beyond not being able to eat it do you go. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you can't eat it. Finished. That's it. And according to the Brisa, you can't eat it, and it also conveys tuma. All right. So that's the question, and those are the two answers.
So a dead bird, you only get the tuma by eating it?
A dead bird is usur to eat, but you only get the tuma by eating it. You don't get the tuma by touching it.
I don't get tuma.
You don't get the tuma. You would not get the tuma by touching this carcass. Can you apply carcass to a bird? Yeah, I guess you could. But by touching this dead bird, you're not going to get tuma. Tuma is not going to be conveyed to you. But a dead cow you will by touching. A dead cow you will if you touch it, if you lift it, if you move it, if you do something like that. Okay. So the Gemara says, even before we continue, let's think about it for a second. Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is a little bit hard to understand. Why? Because what does Rabbi Eliezer say? Rabbi Eliezer says it is a treifa. But wait a second. Right? What's the definition of a treifa?
Treifa is a good animal.
A behemoth tahora.
Right.
That was shechted properly and has
A blemish.
some kind of defect. And the general description is that would normally kill it within, let's say, a year.
A year.
Okay? Do we know that this animal has that kind of defect?
Like
No, I
you
mean,
never check.
what's the whole problem? The whole problem is we didn't check the simanim. We didn't go any further than that. We didn't go to check anything else. We just didn't check the simanim. So how do we know? So why are we calling it a treifa? So the Gemara, the Mefarshim answer, it's not mamish a treifa, but what is it? It's It's like a treifa. What does it mean, like a treifa?
It's not a nevela.
Correct. In other words, we're not saying that the animal is mamish a treifa, that the animal has some kind of blemish inside that would have killed it within 12 months. We're not saying that, but we're saying the halachic status of this animal is like the halachic status of the treifa, meaning that just like the treifa is a surah ba'achila, you're not allowed to eat it, but it doesn't create tuma, so too this animal that you shechted, but you didn't check the simanim, is a surah ba'achila, but it doesn't cause any tuma. On the other hand, what does the Brisa say? The Brisa says it's like it's a nevela. It's not a nevela, right? We know it's not a nevela. How do we know that? Because we killed the animal. Right? And how did we kill the animal? We killed the animal with a good shechita. So we know it's not a nevela. But just like we said, the animal, we're not saying, according to Rebbe Eliezer, that the animal is a treifa. We're saying it's like a treifa. So too here we say, according to the Brisa, the animal is not a nevela, it's like a nevela. What does like a nevela mean? Like a nevela means you can't eat it, and additionally, it creates tuma. Okay, so you have to add in like a in this both in Rebbe Eliezer's opinion and in the Brice's opinion in order to understand what we're doing. Okay, so the Gemara wants to know, but my kamifli, what's this machlokes about between Rebbe Eliezer on the one hand and the Brice on the other? So answers the Gemara, Bidu Rav Huna. They argue about that statement, that principle of Rav Huna, who says, the Amar, who says, Behema bechayeha bechezkas isur omedes. We have I think we maybe we touched on this last week, I'm not sure. We have, Jews can't live with doubt. We can't live with doubt. Right? It doesn't work. We need to know, can I eat this? Can't I eat this? Can I do that? Can't I do that? We can't live with a system that if you say, can I do that? The answer is maybe. It doesn't work. We can't live like that. Can I eat that? Maybe. Right?
But we have so much of it in
Already you have.
in halacha. There's so much
Of
it.
what? Of maybes?
Maybes.
No, not
They're arguing different opinions.
There's never maybes.
Sitting in the
Halacha-
sukkah on the...
No, so there are different opinions as to what the halacha is. Right? In other words, this day I might say X, this day I might say Y, this day I might say Z. There are different opinions as to what the halacha is, but there's no maybes. In other words, you don't have an answer. Should I sit in the sukkah Shmini Atzeres? Maybe. You don't have that answer. In other words, if you paskin like this, then you sit in the sukkah Shmini Atzeres. If you paskin like this, then you don't sit in the sukkah Shmini Atzeres. In other words, we can't live with maybes. The system doesn't work with maybes. So the problem is we don't always know definitively one way or the other. So how do you resolve a system that can't live with maybes with a world that's filled with maybes? How do you do it? So that's where the principle of chazaka comes into play. Chazaka, which we'll learn about, we haven't learned about it yet, we will learn about it, the source for it. But basically, what does chazaka say? Chazaka says, don't bother me. Chazaka says, unless something has changed, assume that the status quo continues. That's chazaka. Right? Now, so how do we apply that to this particular case? So according to one opinion, or first the principle, Rav Huna's principle is, Behema bechayeha bechezkas isur omedes. that the behema, as long as it's as long as it is alive, is bechezkas isur. What does it mean the behema is bechezkas isur? What's the isur?
To eat it.
Correct. Why? Right. I mean,
It's alive.
but why? What do you mean? So
It's
what are you
alive, you
saying?
didn't check it.
So what's the problem? I mean, Leo is thinking he's nuts. Why is he asking me?
Right.
It's
yeah.
alive. He didn't shecht it. Therefore, what? Talk halachically.
It's Aver Min Achai while it's
Okay.
still alive.
So one opinion is it's Aver Min Achai. Right. One opinion is that this animal is Aver Min Achai. It's Aver Min Achai. Okay. Now, does an animal need to be shechted to lose the prohibition of Aver Min Achai?
No.
Just has to be
Dead.
no longer chai. Right? Once an animal is no longer chai, once an animal is dead, there's no longer an isser of Aver Min Achai. Okay? But as long as the animal is alive, so we say there's an isser achila, you're right, you can't eat it. Why can't I eat it? I can't eat it because it's dead. What does that mean? I can't because it's not dead. What does it mean I can't eat it because it's not dead? It would be considered Aver Min Achai. If I would take a knife and cut off a polka,
Leg.
From the chicken, right? It would be Aver Min Achai. Even though I could kasher the leg of the chicken, I could do whatever, it's still Aver Min Achai. And there's behema, as long as it's alive, has a chazaka to it. Behema bechayeha bechezkas isur omedes. Ad sheyivado lecha bamen nishchata. Okay? Until you know bamen nishchata. What does it mean bamen nishchata?
How it was shechted?
How it was whether it was shechted properly or not. In other words, here's a behemoth. The behemoth is walking around in your backyard. It's alive, right? La la la. It's got a chezkas isser to it. Chezkas isser. As long as it has this chezkas isser and nothing changes, the chezkas isser continues. Okay? Now, the behemoth is now dead. Right?
How does it
So,
get there?
right? So, what do I assume? I might assume, it's dead. If it's dead, there's no longer any isser. Right? No. Right? The chazaka continues until we have a clear proof that something has broken this chazaka. So the behema is usher now because of Aver Min Achai. Okay? You come out the next morning and the behema is dead in your backyard.
It's not Aver Min Achai anymore.
It's not Aver Min Achai.
It's not Aver Min Achai anymore.
Continues
But the
It's still
chazaka
Isur.
of usur,
Still goes.
the chazaka,
Right.
in other words, the chazaka of usur, it's usur be'achila. You're right. When it was walking around in your backyard, it was usur because of Aver Min Achai. And now it's dead, so Aver Min Achai no longer applies.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. The isur achila, which was attached to this animal. In other words, you walked out, right? You walked out, it was in your backyard on Thursday, right? You're walking around your backyard, you walked over to it, and you stamped it Aver Min Achai. Right? Usur ba'achila, Aver Min Achai. Now you go out the next day, the animal's dead.
Something did change.
So you cross off the
Aver Min Achai.
Aver Min Achai,
It's still
but the Isser Achila is still there.
Unless you can observe the reason
Unless
it's not.
you know
It was shechted.
that the animal was shechted.
But if the chazaka is the asur because of Aver Min Achai, right? Then something has changed the chazaka of Aver Min Achai.
Right,
That's
the
correct.
chazaka
That's
is
correct. That's
the
correct.
chazaka
That's
is an
correct.
Aver Min Achai. The chazaka is you can't.
The
Just
chazaka
it's
is
asur.
is Asur ba'achila. That's the
Asur
chazaka.
ba'achila. So Aver Min Achai doesn't really.
Well, Aver Min Achai is one of the
It's
reasons
one,
it would have.
so-
In other words,
Okay.
I just brought that up because there's a machlokes as to what's the reason for the Isser Achila while the animal is alive. One opinion, and this is Rashi's opinion. You look at Rashi. Rashi says it.
Here.
Okay, right.
The bottom
Four
of the
lines up before it gets wide. Rashi, 4 lines up. Behema bechayeha bechezkas isur. Shaharei asura. You got it, guys?
Yep.
Rashi's over here, Leo. Okay, right down
Go
here.
nuts, huh?
Shaharei asura. Excuse me. Mishum Aver Min Achai. Hilkach. In other words, there's an Isser Achila. The Isser Achila happens to be rooted, says Rashi, in Aver Min Achai. Hilkach im nolad sofek b'shchita. And now you're looking at the animal and you don't know how the animal, whether the shchita was a good shchita or not. In other words, there's no clear disturbance to the chazaka. In other words, we're not talking about a chazaka of the animal being alive, right? I think that's where I was getting, because clearly the animal's dead now, right? There could be a chazaka that the animal's alive. You walk out back, it's dead. The chazaka is gone, right? It's not a chazaka that it's alive. It's chazaka of an isser achila,
right?
Because of Eiver min achai, says Rashi. But now there's a suffik b'shchita, uvasa l'ha'amida al cheskasa, and what do you have to do where there's a suffik? Unless you know for sure that something has happened, the suffik just continues blowing through. You know, in other words, the suffik is going at 60 miles an hour. The only way you can derail that suffik is by switching the railroad track. But if you're sitting there thinking, should I switch? Shouldn't I switch? What's going to happen? Boom, it's still coming through at 60 miles an hour. It's going to blow right past you. That chazaka continues until there's something not a suffik that changes it. What's not a suffik that changes it? Shchita. But only a shchita where you
Checked it.
check the simanim so that you know it was a valid shchita. If you do a shchita and you check the simanim and you know it was a valid shchita, so the iser achila, which was chugging along, now stops. Why? Because now there's a heter achila. Because shchita done properly creates a heter achila, removes the iser achila. Okay? Now, at the same time, the animal goes from being alive to being dead.
Right.
But, I mean, it could go from being alive to being dead by having a heart attack also.
Well, I think that's kind of why it's confusing to me, because I get the chazaka, right? When it's alive, it's isur. My only question is if it's only, for example, Eber min achai, right? Then Eber min achai, the
Stops
chazaka
when it dies.
should stop.
No. So that's
I know that it's
the chazaka is not Eiver min achai. The chazaka is Isser Achila. Right? That chazaka of Isser Achila is going to continue, whether the behemoth is live or dead, until we have some kind of proof that this behemoth was killed in a way that would remove that chazaka.
It's basically the chazaka starts at a certain place and it continues in that place unless you have something that you know changes it in the right way.
No, I agree.
That derails
Achila doesn't stop when the animal dies. I just wish there was something else besides Eiver min achai, kind of on the back end of it or something like that.
I mean, there's more things if you think about it. You still can't eat it, right?
Right, of course.
Even if it's dead, you can't eat it until you kosher it, until you do this and
that.
I mean,
That's fair.
Right? Okay, so you have this. So according to Rashi, the source for the Isser Achila is Eiver min achai. Right? There's another opinion which is not brought down on our page. I think maybe the note mentions it. There's another opinion which is brought down that the Isser derives its power from Eina Zavucha. That an animal has a status of Eina Zavucha. An animal which is alive has a status of Eina Zavucha. Right? Obviously, because it's alive. As long as it has a status of Eina Zavucha, there is an Isser Achila to it. Because, right, the only kind of animal that you can eat is an animal that had a Zvicha, that had a Shchita. But if the animal's walking around in the backyard, you look at it, you walk over to it, you stamp it, Asr Ba'achila. And underneath it you stamp Eina Zavucha. Now, you go out the next day, and the animal is dead in the backyard. Well, what do you say? The Isser Achila...
That actually solves your problem a
right?
little bit. You can't,
it's different, right? In other words, it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit cleaner.
Yes.
It's a little bit cleaner than Rashi, because Zach can still say, it's still Eina Zavucha. Right? It's still Eina Zavucha.
Right.
Whereas when the animal dies, you can't say, it's Eiver min, it's not it. Right? It's not Eiver min achai anymore, right?
Problem.
So it's a little bit cleaner. This opinion, I don't remember whose opinion. Remember it was mentioned here?
Rashba,
right?
But it's funny because actually, when you read it in English now, Rashba objects because of the same way I objected.
Right. Well,
Prohibition is
maybe you
definitely
object
lifted
because the
once
same
the
way the
animal dies.
maybe you object the same way Rashba objects.
Well, obviously he lived a lot and a lot smarter,
Right.
but he had the same problem, I guess.
Correct. That's correct. In other words, he was uncomfortable with Rashi's source for the Isser Achila being Ever Min HaChai. So he had a different source for the Isser, and that is source of Eina Zavucha, which is a little bit cleaner. The only problem is Eina Zavuchas. I mean, Isser Min HaChai is like meat and potatoes kind of Isser. Eina
Right.
Zavucha is derived. It's not so.
It's so easy.
In other words, there's a reason why Rashi said Ever Min HaChai, and there's a reason why the Rashba said Eina Zavucha. Okay, let's keep going. Okay.
There's a lot of like connections in shchita and the act of zavicha, or however you would conjugate that.
When they use Zavicha here, Zavicha means Shchita.
I don't know, because we learn all sorts of stuff about how you do korbanot and things like that for the purposes of coming up with answers on shchita
Well, Shchita had to be done
in the manner.
as one of the avodos of the karbanos. Shchita had to be done. But when we say, when the Gemara uses the terms Eina Zavucha, it's not referring to Shchita. It's not referring to karbanos. It's the same thing as saying Eina Shchuta. Eina Zavucha is the same thing as saying Eina Shchuta. Because we're not talking karbanos like, we're talking, differently. Okay. All right, let's go weiter. So the Gemara says...
That's Persian for keep going.
Yeah, sorry, Simon. Okay, so the Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, the behema becheskas iser amedes ad sheyivada lechabame nishchata. Once it's slaughtered properly, we're talking about nishchata means it's slaughtered and you check the simani. So then, what can you assume? Becheskas heter amedes. Now you can assume that the animal is mutter to eat ad sheyivada lechabame nitrafa. Until what? Until something comes along and destroys the chazaka of mutter ba'achila, and that would be a treifa. By men nitrafas. There was something that would make it a treifa. Okay? So, let's see how these things play out. Okay. Okay, so the Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, Vilema nishchata hutra. Right? So what should we say? Let us say that nishchata, that if the animal is shecht, I mean, after all, right? What do we, right? What's the chisaron here? What's missing? What's the case that we're dealing with? A shochet who shechted the animal, but what?
Didn't check.
He didn't check the simanim. So says the Gemara, okay, V'lemen nishchata, let's say that, what? Nishchata, it was shechted, and therefore what? And there, did I skip?
No, you're right.
No, I think you're at Mar Savar.
You know what? You're right. I did skip. My apologies. Okay. Zach is looking at me like, what are you doing? Okay. Mar Savar. I'm sorry. Right. So now we're getting both sides of the machlokas. I actually said it outside. We'll look at it inside now. Mar Savar bechezkas iser kayama v'hashta mesahi. In other words, one opinion. Which opinion is this? One opinion. Listen to the opinion first. You'll tell me who it is. One opinion says bechezkas iser kayama, right? That the iser achila is continuing on. The hashta mesahi, and now what do we consider it? We consider it dead. We consider the animal dead. All right. Let's look at the other side. Umar savar on the other side holds bechezkas iser amrinan, bechezkas tuma lo amrinan. Okay. What do we say? Who's who? Who's who here? You have two opinions. You have Rebbe Eliezer and you have the Brisa. So it's easy to figure out because who talks about Tuma? Who talks about Tuma? Who says there's Tuma?
The Nevela.
No, the Nevela is the Breita.
It's the Breita.
The Brisa, right? The Brisa says there's Tuma. Who says there's no Tuma? Rebbe Eliezer says there's no Tuma. So now let's look at the two opinions. Mar Savar bechezkas iser amrina. I'm sorry. Mar Savar bechezkas iser kayama v'hashta mesa. One side holds what? That there was a chazaka of Isser, and now the animal is dead. Who is that?
It's
gonna-
Rabbi
Eliezer.
It's actually going to be the brisa.
But where?
Look at Rashi. You'll see. All right, look at Rashi. So Rashi is in the middle of the lower box, if you will, right in the middle of the, between where it gets narrow, and between where it gets wide, and where it gets wider. Mar savar becheskas iser, becheskas iser harishon omedes. Right, one opinion, and just keep in mind who it is, holds that the animal stays becheskas iser rishon, the initial iser that was there. And what was that initial iser? Shelo hayasa shechuta. V'kevan de becheskas she'ena shechuta mukmis la hare mesa umitama. Okay, so who is this?
That's the
Second
right.
guy.
That's
This is
saying
the opinion of the Brisa, that what happens?
Right, it died in some way,
it's
not like a
tumah.
shchita.
V'kevan de becheskas
The
she'ena
cheskah continues like
shechuta
that.
mukmes hare mesa umitama. In other words, it has the chazaka of ena shchuta, which it hasn't been shechted, and now it's dead. Right? Hasn't been shechted, and now it's dead. In other words, this is the way the Brisa looks at it. Right? The animal's walking around that back. Right? 2:00, it's
By
walking.
the way, this is the same as Rashba, right? This is almost because Rashba's, it hasn't been, what was it? What was
Ein
the term?
zavucha.
Ein zavucha.
Then
It's kind of the same.
It's a little bit of the same, right? But understand where the Bryce is going with it. You look outside, 2:00, the animal is bechezkas isur. 3:00, the animal is bechezkas isur. You go outside, you shech the animal, and you leave. And you never look at the simanim. Right? You shech the animal, you leave, and you never look at the simanim. So what is the Brisa saying? So the Brisa is saying, "V'kevan de bechezkas she'ena shchuta mukmisla." In other words, it still has the chazaka of
not
Ein
being
shchuta.
shechted,
not being shechted, of ena shchuta.
which is an avela.
Hare mesa umitama. What is an example of an animal that has a chazaka of ena shchuta and is dead?
An animal that just dropped dead.
And what do we call that?
A nevela.
A nevela, right? So he's not saying the animal's a nevela because we know for sure that somebody shechted it. So we're not saying it's a nevela, but we're saying that it has the status of eina shchuta. And since it has the status of eina shchuta, it was alive, now it's dead. What does that resemble?
Like an avela.
It resembles a nevela. The only difference is we know that what killed it was a maaseh shchita. We just don't know if that maaseh shchita was
Successful.
a good shchita, a proper shchita. So the animal goes from being alive to being dead through a question mark shchita. But when animals go from being alive to being dead without a proper shchita, what do we call them? We call them nevela. So therefore, even though this animal is not a nevela technically because it had a maaseh shchita, nevertheless, the animal is considered like a nevela, and it is mitame.
Okay, so if a ben pekua mates with a regular animal,
Whoa. Okay. Go ahead, go ahead.
the offspring, you can't shecht.
Correct.
You
So
don't
they
have to
consider-
No,
Uh,
you don't have to share.
You don't have to shecht.
a ben pekua and a regular animal
Go ahead.
mate.
Right, a ben pekua does not need shchita.
Right.
Right.
You can just pull off a
Right, but now
Oh,
it mates.
what?
No, I
But
think
there's
you're
still
wrong.
Eber Menachai, right?
No. If two ben pekuas mate, you can do it. You don't need to shecht it. If a ben pekua mates with a non-ben, a regular animal, I don't think you can even
It's pretty much
shecht that
No,
animal.
it needs
Yeah, 'cause
needs
it's
to be
considered
killed.
not
it can't,
fully-
It can't be alive. Right. You can't eat the
It needs
animal
to
when
be
it's
killed.
alive.
So
Correct.
then you would have Eber Menachai.
Right. Correct. Go ahead. Now, so tell me the story.
I could be wrong, but from my recollection, if a ben pekua mates with a regular animal, the offspring cannot have a proper shechita.
In other words, you're saying it's impossible
It's
to ever shech that animal.
Right.
Because one part of the animal was not a bar shechita,
And one was.
and one was. Could be. I don't know the halacha. Could be.
No, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
So that would be a case where
Okay. So now we have
it's
this.
always
animal-
going to be a nevela.
So now we have this animal walking around, right? That's
Right.
that can't be shechted.
Right.
Can't be shechted. Okay?
Correct.
So you're saying that because the animal can't be shechted, it's a nevela?
Yes.
No, as long as it's alive, it can't be a nevela.
As
By
long-
definition, a nevela needs
Oh,
to be
dead.
Dead.
Okay.
By definition, a nevela needs to be dead.
Okay.
All right.
No, so here, Leo, if a ben pekua bred with a normal animal, resulting offspring can never be consumed.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
That's what I
he's
said.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying.
That's what I
Never be
said.
consumed. Right.
It's
Okay.
some other guys that were saying you could have it.
Okay. So all right. So this is the opinion of the brisa, right? The brisa says this animal, while it's alive, has a chezkas eina shchuta. Now it's died. We know it's not alive anymore, but the chazaka of eina shchuta continues. And when you apply to this animal the status of eina shchuta but dead, that gives it the status of nevela, because that's the definition of nevela. Nevela is eina shchuta but dead. Now, even though we know there was a ma'aseh shchita, nevertheless, since we don't know if that ma'aseh shchita was a valid ma'aseh shchita, a proper ma'aseh shchita, so the animal has a question mark and has a suffix in the ma'aseh shchita. So the animal is considered an eina shchuta that's dead, an eina shchuta that's dead. What does that remind us of? Blink, 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 nevela, and therefore there's tuma associated with it. It's not calling it a nevela. Right? And it says it has the status of a nevela. In other words, because a nevela is by definition an animal that did not have a shechita.
Right.
This animal might have had a shechita. We don't know.
So it's a questionable tumor.
No, it's a vadai tuma.
No, it is-
It's a vadai tuma. Because
But the tumor could go away
in
once
other
you
words,
check
it's-
it.
No, because you
you-
can't check it anymore. You can't go back and check the simanim.
We're assuming the simanim are not available to be checked.
Correct.
anymore.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that was clear.
That's okay. No.
A raccoon ate the simanim.
Yeah, that's basically right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, I don't know,
Somebody pulled them out.
the head got chopped
Something.
off.
Right.
Right.
Something like that.
Okay.
All right? That's why you're supposed to check it right away before the raccoons get some.
Got it. Okay.
Okay? But the idea, right, correct. In other words, we can't resolve this doubtful shechita. It's impossible. Right? We can't go back and check the simanim because the simanim are not here. So this doubtful shechita remains a doubtful shechita. As long as it's a doubtful shechita, what are we going to do with it? So we say, can't eat the animal. Why can't you eat the animal? Because the chazaka of eina shchuta is continuing. It bumps up against this question mark shechita and just pushes it aside and keeps going. As if to say, the animal is now considered eina shchuta and dead. Eina shchuta and dead, if you put eina shchuta and dead into my computer, what comes out? Nevela. Even though it's not technically a nevela. Okay?
So if it's not technically a nevela, why does it get all of the stuff associated with a nevela, like tuma?
Because that's the only category it fits in, according to the brisa. In other words, we don't have any
No
other
maybes.
brisa. We have to
There's
put
no
it.
maybes,
We
right?
have to
No
put it into a category. So it goes either in this bucket or this bucket. This bucket, right? There's only two buckets of dead animals for us. There's a dead animal there are three buckets of dead animals. There's a dead animal over here you can eat because it was a good shechita. There's a dead animal over here that you can't eat because there was no ma'aseh shechita, and it, as a result of that, conveys tuma. And the middle bucket is a dead animal that you can't eat because it's a treifa.
So how did the shechtim in the, let's say, in old days, right, they're shechting for and they happen to get an avela. That's it. They're
You don't happen to
Huh?
get you happen to get a treifa.
no an avela.
How do you happen
mess
to
up
get
the
it?
shchita.
Oh, you mess up the shchita. Right.
You mess up the
Happens.
shchita.
Right.
You have
Happens.
an avela. So now you're
100%.
tame. They were tame at that point. They had to go
Correct. In other words, touching the meat would make them tummy.
touching the
Correct.
meat with me. So I guess that's why they shecht it with those extra long knives.
That's what
Didn't we
did at the
learn that at the
very beginning.
beginning?
That's what we learned
That's
at the
what I'm saying,
beginning,
right?
Right.
Just in case you messed up.
Right, learned that at the beginning. Okay. Okay, so let's continue on with the Gemara. Okay, so that's the opinion of the Brisa. Umar Savar, and the second opinion, Bechezkas Isur Amrinan, Bechezkas Tuma Lo Amrinan. What does Rebbe Eliezer say? Rebbe Eliezer says, okay, this animal's walking around. Dum, 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 dum. What does it have? It has a Chezkas
Isur.
Isur. Does it have a Chezkas Tuma?
No.
Doesn't have a cheskas tuma because it's alive. A live animal is not mitame, right? A live animal, there's no tuma associated with a live animal. So the animal's right cheskas iser moving along, bumps up against the questionable shchita. What happens? The cheskas iser just blows past it, keeps on going. But there's no cheskas tuma. There was no tuma before. While the animal was alive, there was no tuma. If there was no tuma when the animal is alive, so where is a chezkas tuma coming in now? That we're saying the chezkas, that now there's a chezkas tuma. Where's that coming from? Okay. So far so good? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So Gemara is continuing now, and the Gemara says, Rumbar Savar bechezkas iser amrina bechezkas tuma lo amrina. Agufa. Now we're going to come back to the second part of the statement. Second part of the statement was Amar Rav Huna behema bechayha bechezkas iser amedis ad shiyavad lecha b'men nishchata. Nishchata, when the animal is shechted, bechezkas heter omedes ad shiyavad lecha b'man nitrafa. In other words, the animal, once you shecht it, and the shchita has been a good shchita, the animal is bechezkas heter. Until you know that in some way the animal is a treifa. In other words, it can, right? It goes, the chezkas heter, the moment of shchita continues along until it bumps up against something that it can't move. That something that it can't move would be something of one of the psulei treifa. Okay. So let's say. So vilema. So let us say nishchata hutra. Right? What are we saying? In other words, what was the language? What did the Brisa say? The Brisa said nishchata bechezkas heter omedes. It's a strange language. Bechezkas heter omedes. What's a much cleaner way of saying that?
Mutter.
Hutra, it's mutter. Right? Why does the second part of the Brisa say nishchata was shechted bechezkas heter omedes? Just say nishchata, it was shechted. Hutra, it's permissible. What is this bechezkas heter omedes? What does that mean? So that's what the Gemara asks. V'lema, let the Gemara say nishchata hutra. What is this? Bechezkas heter omedes. What is that coming to teach us? Why not just use the simpler language of hutra? There must have been a reason for it. So says the Gemara, Hakamash Malan, it comes to teach us the following case. Da'af al gav di isyolid be ba reusa, right? That even if a reusa is created, what's a reusa? What do you see in the word reusa? You see the word ra, right? Something bad. A reusa is something that upsets a chazaka. So, for instance, tefillin. How often do you have to have your tefillin checked?
7 years. 7 years?
Twice in 7 years.
Well, but they do it together, basically.
Okay, twice in 7 years. Okay, now let's say under normal circumstances, nothing's unusual. Okay, twice in 7 years you get them checked. Okay, but let's say that your kid took your tefillin and dumped them in the sink where somebody was washing dishes. And now you look at your tefillin and the leather is soaked. Do you have to get them checked, or can you say bechezkas kashrus omedes? Hey, they were kosher, right? You didn't get your tefillin checked every day. Why can I put on my tefillin this morning and not worry that they became puzzle? Because there's a chezkas kashrus that goes from the very last time I had them checked. There's a chezkas kashrus that continues. Okay, that's why, right? Friday night we make an announcement. The Erev is good. How do you know that something didn't happen to it on Shabbos?
You don't.
You don't.
Cheskas.
It's a suffix. It's a suffix. And so can you carry? Why can't you say, I can't carry because I need somebody checking that Erev every instant? In other words, I need to have an electric current running through it. It has to show continuity. And if the continuity breaks, I can't carry. No, we don't say that. Why? What do we say?
Do that.
What do we say? We say there is a chezkas kashrus. Now the Erev's chezkas kashrus just goes from one, just runs through Shabbos. But your tefillin's chezkas kashrus goes from the time it was checked for 2.5 years.
Unless someone
Don't they do
changed
it together?
What do you mean together?
They don't do the check like twice at the same time. I thought there's like this chop that they check it twice at the same time, so that it's once every 7. They check twice, but they do it at the same time. Am I wrong about this?
I'm not familiar with it. Could be. Depends on. We'll look it up and see. We'll look
This
it
is
up and see.
Sofer's way of getting a pay raise.
We'll look it up and see. Okay, I mean the Sofer checks it twice?
Yeah,
At the same time.
at the same time.
Puts
That's
it
what
back,
I
opens
thought.
it again, and
No,
says,
he doesn't put it back and open it again.
I thought he checks it twice.
No.
No, what I know what they did recently is the Sofer checks by himself, and then he has the computer check it also, which doesn't count.
That
But he
doesn't
says,
count
I'm
as a big
checking it
deal.
also.
Right, but that doesn't count as a big deal. Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll go.
The Sofer
you know.
checks with a computer.
Yeah, that's the latest thing.
computer
But
checks.
it doesn't count.
The computer checks mole and chaser
Okay.
and suras haos. In other words, the computer can tell you if an os, which is
Part of
supposed
it's
to be there,
missing.
doesn't look right. The Sofer is the one who ultimately has to paskin on it.
Right.
But the computer can say, hey, this doesn't match my database.
So it's like going to the eye doctor, right? And they run that test and either tells the
Right.
prescription.
And then you go in. And, exactly. It's exactly what it is. Okay. All right. So what do we have now? So again, your kid dumped your tefillin in the sink. The leather is soaked. Can you rely on the chazaka that, hey, this morning it was fine. Yesterday morning it was fine. Morning before that it was fine. The answer is no. Why? Because there is what's called a reusa. There's an event that impacts adversely on the chazaka. Whenever the chazaka bumps up against the reusa, the chazaka becomes very shaky.
Well, the leather we don't care anything about. It's the lettering on the inside, right?
Well, we do care about the leather. No, we care very much about the leather.
Why?
Because what happens to leather when it gets swollen? I'm sorry. What happens to leather when it gets wet?
Okay, so
It gets
fine.
swollen.
Thank you.
Fine.
Right? Somebody should have answered it gets wet. Right? It gets swollen, okay? And when it gets swollen, it gets out of shape.
Okay.
And so we need, your tefillin have to be ribua. Your tefillin have to be perfectly square. If your measurements are not square because it's out of shape, then your tefillin are not kosher. Even if the parshios inside are perfectly fine. Well, it's interesting, sometimes...
I had that problem.
Right.
I had to go clamp it and put it back together.
Yeah, it's a whole big thing. Sometimes a sofer will see a case where it happens sometimes with kids. They're davening and they don't realize where they're standing and they go boom and right into a wall with their tefillin. And what happens? A corner of the tefillin gets dented. The corner of the tefillin is dented. There's no longer a ribua. So what does the sofer do? It has to be fixed. So one of the ways, so they send it to the batemacher. The batemacher swells the leather. He soaks the leather. It takes like a cotton ball, right, and soaks the leather in that particular spot, in that corner. And what will happen?
It'll swell.
After a while, the leather will swell. Once leather swells, what does the batemaker do?
Smooths it.
Shaves it down until the ribua is once again there. Right?
You've seen them do this?
Yes.
Wow.
I had this when I was a kid. I used to go to school. I used to go in the morning. I would take a shower or whatever. I went with wet hair, Eventually, my
Gonna ruin
tefillin,
the
they,
tefillin warped.
They warped.
Yeah.
Because you'd think he'd open the tefillin and just knock
The
it from
guy
the
had to
inside
put it
out.
in
No, you
like
can't do that. You can't.
Your
Why
hair
not?
would
nothing to
stay
knock
wet
out.
for that long?
Wasn't
The
so long
leather
from school.
got
from home
dented
to
in,
school.
pushed in.
Like the leather got
Your
pushed
hair
in,
would
but you
freeze by
can't
the
just
time
push
you
it
put
out.
a bunch
Well,
of
that's
gel.
probably why it
like
stayed
you
wet.
fix a car. You
Yeah,
can't.
like fix a car. That's what I'm thinking.
Doesn't work the same way. Okay. All right. So in other words, here's a reyus. So says the Gemara. In other words, why did the Brisa choose? Why did Rav Huna choose the language of beheter, a becheskas heter omedus instead of simply saying hutra? It's permissible. So the Gemara says, Kamash Malan, it comes to teach me. The afal gav deis yoled ba reusa, that even if there is a reusa kidibai mine Rebbe Abba mi Rav Huna, like the following case. What's the following case? And the following, this is what Rebbe Abba asked Rav Huna. Shechted the animal, okay? Shechted the animal and left the animal out back. Ba ze'ev, along comes a wolf. V'natal b'nei me'ayin. And what happens? And he grabs the intestines of the behemoth, right? And he takes off. And now what happens? Jared happened to have seen that. So Jared takes off after the wolf, right? And Jared grabs the wolf and gets the B'nai Me'ayim back from the wolf. And now he looks at the B'nai Me'ayim and what?
They've been chewed
Right,
up.
and what are in the B'nai Me'ayim? Let's assume not chewed up, but there's holes.
Right.
There are teeth holes in the B'nai Me'ayim. Now, what's the issue here? Okay? We know that holes in intestines make the animal treif. So do we say that the animal, at the moment that it was shechted, because remember, when did the wolf steal the intestines?
After it was shot.
After the animal was shechted. Wolves are not stealing any intestines while the animal's still alive, right? The animal was shechted and split open. That's when the wolf took the intestines. So do we say that there was a hole in the intestines
Before.
at the time that you did the shechita, and all the wolf did was put his teeth in the hole that was already in the intestines, and therefore the animal is considered treif? Or do you say, no, there was no hole before, and what we're seeing now is a tooth mark or teeth marks of the wolf. The holes are made by the teeth of the wolf, meaning that the animal is a kosher animal. It's not a treifa, right? So here, that's right. That's the question. That's the question. Not to, right. So the question again. Ba'u minei Rabbi Abba me Rav Huna. Ba'ze'ev. A wolf comes along. V'natal b'nei me'ayim, and he steals the b'nei me'ayim. Mahu. What do we right? So mahu. Natal halisnuhu ele nakav b'nei me'ayim. I lost my place. Oh, here we go. Okay. V'natal b'nei me'ayim. So mahu, what's the status of these b'nei me'ayim? Do we say so? Natal, when he took it, halesnahu, there was no hole in it. Ella nakav b'nei me'ayim, that the holes that you see in the b'nei me'ayim are holes that come from the teeth of the wolf, right? So ma nekev hakazinan duhu nakvinhu, right? That what happened? That he, the wolf, put the holes into the b'nei me'ayim. In which case, I can now say that the animal is
Okay.
perfectly fine. Elenatlan vehechziran kishehin nekuvin, right? So, right, what mahu michai shinan shema b'makom nekev nakav olo. Okay, so that's the question. Do we assume that the wolf created his holes in the same place where there were holes already, lo, or not. So Amar Le, so Rav Huna responded to Rav Abba and said, Ein choshishin shema b'makom nakav, shema b'makom nakav, I think it is, right? That we don't worry, ein choshishin, right? We're not suspicious, we're not worried that in the place where there was a nekev, the place where there was a hole,
There was already one.
right? In the place where there is a hole now, there was already a hole. So we're not worried about that. Okay. So how does that help us? What does that have to do with beheter chazaka omed? And we're late. I'm just going to finish quickly, right? If we simply say hutra, that what that the behema was, right?
Kosher.
Nishchata, hutra, right? That it's permissible. So that doesn't give it the continual status. That's not as strong of a statement as saying bechezkas heter omedes. What do we?
Oh, because now your chazaka is gone.
Right. So in other words, we're saying no. It's not like we're saying the chazaka of heter is what's continuing. It's not just mutter, right? But mutter gives it a chezkas heter. And unless we have a reusa against the chezkas heter, the chezkas heter continues. If you want, well, Amir Hashem come back and maybe just review this at the beginning of next week's class. Thank you.